Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show, we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of NOS4A2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. You know, watching that intro is even like, it has this like sick, messed up element to it in the sense that, like, if you cut out the context of who Charlie Manx is, that moment he has with Wayne being like, oh, you can basically, who do you want to be? It's actually very sweet and touching, but then at the same time, it's just like, because you have the context of everything else, it's just like, it's sad because it's like, you could be a good person, but you've been so deluded because of everything that you ever gone through in your life has kind of made you into who you are. But once again, it doesn't justify what he's done, but it's just that thing of like, for that moment, I was like, oh, it's almost like this sweet moment. And then reality smacks you in the face being like, right, he's a monster who's kidnapped a whole bunch of kids, who's killed a lot of people in the grand scheme of things. So it's just, and at the same time, Lou's getting the bike ready for Vic, and Vic's just kind of like, you have to stay here, Lou, because Wayne's going to need you. He's like, Wayne's going to need you too. He's like, I need you because, but it's like, don't leave my dad alone, and it's just like, that's still got to be rough because it's like, she's so determined to save Wayne, but it's like, my dad literally sacrificed himself so I can bring our son home, so I have to. It's like, she doesn't even have time to grieve the fact that it's her dad, which is murdered in front. It's like, I gotta get to work. I gotta save, our son. And it's like, she's like, I'm so lucky that our son has your heart, And it's this sweet, beautiful moment. And she's just like, just kiss me. And they kiss. And it's like, I love you too. And obviously, she reluctantly has to take Maggie along because she doesn't want to drag Maggie into this because it's like, she just lost her dad. She's not about to put Maggie in danger. But Maggie's like, I was hunting Manx way before you. So it's only right that I help you in this. So they find their way into Christmasland. Obviously, circling back to it, Charlie's, welcoming home back to Christmasland isn't what he thought it would be because it's like, Millie isn't there. And it's like, oh, you're supposed to be, what is so important that you would miss Wayne's welcoming? Because for him, it's like, he's like, I remember you come, because basically she spends her time in an ice maze, and it's like, you would come here all the time in the beginning because you were lonely, you had no friends, but he's like, I did that for you. I brought you so many friends. And so, but the fact of the matter is, this isn't the same Millie who's been complacent this entire time. It's like, she sees things as they really are. She's like, let's leave here. And he's like, what are you talking about? Why would you? She's like, let's just leave, Dad. And it's like, this isn't our only home. It's like the house. And he's like, what house? And it's like, our other home. She's like, I'll show you. And the fact is, he was like, wait, what is this place? Because it's like, so you didn't even know it was there, which makes sense. It's always been in the back of his mind, but because of the whole recent situation, the only reason why it's popped up now is because he died. His mind has become unstable because he died, and so because his mind's unstable and his inscape is literally a reflection of his mind, the things that were in the back recesses of his mind has started pushing forward to the forefront. That includes Cassie and their home and everything, and she shows it to him. Obviously, him hearing Mr. Tim banging on a door, he got scared because it's like, and it's just like, because it's like, oh, like, this place is your, this place isn't some mess up, like, fake thing or whatever. It's like, it's your nightmares in particular, Dad. It's like, let me show you something. And he goes there, he's looking at the house. It, it's sinking in because he hasn't seen it in decades. And once again, it's so interesting because it's always been there. It's just because of his fears. It's not just Mr. Tim that's locked away. It's Cassie, because what she represent, what he basically destroyed, what they had as a family. Like, he let, as Cassie says later on, he let his ego get the best of him, and it's like, he ends up pushing this place that used to have, there used to be, it used to be important to him for it to be in the back of his mind, locked away of all his nightmares, because it would mean confronting this place would mean confronting all that he did to get to where he is now. And Cassie's there, and obviously Millie's like, okay, Mom, we can leave together, but she's like, no, like, because of what your father did to you and me, I can never leave this place. It's like, you can though. And I love Cassie confronting him, and it's like, oh, she's like, let me lead this time, dear. She's like, yeah, you were always a terrible dancer. Even when my father paid for dance lessons, you were just in there. You always thought that you were meant to lead, because the fact of the matter is, it's like, all that you've done has got you here. It's like you want to make it seem like everything you've done basically has been for, for your daughter and everything, like, because he's like, oh, I've done so much more for her than you could. It's like, I gave her, I made her happy. It's like, yes, you gave her candy and all that. Sure, you made her happy in that sense. But also, once again, it's the thing of like, you took the life she could have lived. She could have been happy in many different regards, because this isn't just about her happiness. This is about your own, basically his own inflated ego. It's always been that, making it seem like everything he's done, he wants to make it seem like he did it for other people, all the other children. It's like, no, you wanted it for yourself. He wants to make it seem like, oh, like, and I thought this was a really powerful conversation, because obviously, later on, Millie's like, all right, let's leave, Dad. I was like, but he doesn't want to leave. It's like, we're going to stay. And she's like, fine, we'll stay here, Dad. Just let Wayne go with his mom. And it's like, he's like, no. But then, like, she's like, I finally get it. I'm not enough. He's like, what? She's like, I've never been enough, have I? It's like, because it's like, I asked you to stay, I asked you to leave, you say no. I asked you to stay, you say no. It's like, it's because for him, it's like, oh, my work is never done. It's like, for her, it's like, you make it seem like saving all these children is because you are doing it for my sake. And it's like, he's not. He's doing it because, so like I said, the childhood that was ripped away from him, like because of, the effed up thing that happened to him as a kid, he's trying to reclaim that, wonderment as a child by basically taking all these other kids, we even saw the book making them sign their last name as Manx. It's like, you actually have, this is your actual daughter, but all these other children, because the gratification, because also what they do for him, because if it wasn't for the children, he wouldn't be as young as he is. So it all flows together in showing it's never been about them. It's always been about you. You get to continuously be Father Christmas. You get to be loved. You get to enjoy all this. But once again, you can also look at it as an extension of the pervertedness that happened to him, like him being, molested, raped as a kid, like led to this perversion that he's creating, where he's taking all these children and kind of basically feeding off their lives, essentially, because he's making it in his deluded mind. It's like, no, I'm saving these children, I'm helping these children, but he's basically almost in his own way perpetuating the cycle of what happened to him. And it's interesting. I mean that in like, it's a sad, fucked up type of interesting, just like once again, like I break it down, like the psychological angle of it. When you really break it down, it's like, oh, that's like some deep fucked up psychological trauma that, in this vicious cycle to a certain extent. So, and Millie feeling like that, finally seeing, because like her mom was like, if your dad won't let you leave, you got to find your own way out, so, and obviously, obviously Vic and Maggie found their way into Christmasland. I'm wondering, will this have a long-term effect on her bridge? Probably not. But like, the fact is, you're using your Inscape to enter someone else's Inscape. So that's interesting. Because obviously she went into, I'm blanking on the older lady from last season. She met in the hospital and everything. That's like, that lady welcomed you into her Inscape. It's never been a situation of, I'm going to use my Inscape to get inside someone else's Inscape. This is kind of a first, and it was freezing her bridge just because of how cold Christmasland is. But I was wondering, like, is that going to have some like long-term effects? Probably not. Probably overthinking about it. Just it's probably not the best thing, using your mind to literally enter another person's mind. That's a little inception-y when you actually think about that like that, because her bridge is literally a manifestation of her mind, and it tunneled away into his mind. That's actually kind of interesting when you break that down. But basically, Vic was like, your own daughter doesn't want to even be here. You want to make it seem like all these kids are happy? Your own daughter doesn't want to be here. The fact of the matter is, she wants me to help her get out here. It's like, Millie, I can help you get out. All you got to do is bring Wayne here. It's like, all of you can leave, because obviously you're not happy here. And the thing is, Millie's hesitant, because it's like, it's also the thing of like, this is my dad, before she made up her mind to be like, I'm out of here. It's like, but the fact of the matter is, for her, it's just, this is her father, and she was scared because he was like, oh, I'm not cross with you. This is all Vic McQueen's fault. She perverted your mind. She poisoned your mind, like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but obviously, Maggie setting up the bombs and everything. I should also note, I thought it was kind of neat that little girl was sneaking up on him, and Maggie's like, red light, and she actually stopped, and she's like, yeah, I worked on the punk kids at school. I was like, oh, that's pretty genius, because they are kids, so like kid logic being like, damn it, oh, she got me good. I can't do anything. It's part of the game, but sadly it doesn't work later on because it's no, we're gonna play a new game. It's actually interesting, and I think maybe this speaks volumes. When that little girl took Maggie's bag, her Scrabble bag, it's like, to be fair, this is different circumstances. Your Scrabble bag would be inside of Christmasland when it potentially disappears, so it probably wouldn't come back. Because we know, like, we've seen her throw away her Scrabble bag and it came back to her, so I was like, it'd come back to you. But these circumstances are different, so you probably would need to make sure you got your Scrabble bag before you bounce. But also, I'm sure it's also a reflection of the fact of the matter is she's not willing to ever let go of that Scrabble bag again. Using it, whatever the case may be, it's like she's going to embrace using that. It's also sad too because she looks at that tree and obviously there's people's heads and stuff. One of the heads she sees is Joe's, and that's got to be heartbreaking. She already knew Joe was dead. It's even like harder when you have to look at it and see it stare you straight in the face, type of situation. But obviously, like, them setting up bombs everywhere and like the kids are like just coming after them like a little like zombie apocalypse. A little, cretins are everywhere, and it's sad because it's like, can you even save all of them? Obviously, no matter how much she tries to reach out to Wayne just won't listen, because for him, it's once again, it's like the Wraith as well as Christmasland just pollutes your mind into being like, no, this is fun. It plays into all that childlike wonderment and it seduces you with it and keeps you locked into it. So for him, he's not willing to see kind of the other side of things, especially when she tried to talk to him about the fact of the matter is, all right, if it's Christmas forever, that means no more 4th of July and just no more fireworks, no more hot dogs, no more summer, no more swimming, like all the things that you love you can never have access to them. And it seems like she might be getting through to him, and he stabs her with some scissors, and it's just like, the more time they spend there, it's just like, man, this place sucks so much ass, so, and at the same time, it's just like, obviously, as everything gets blown, as, one place after another blows up, it creates a situation that, Charlie's in a worse and worse condition, And obviously, he talks about the fact is it's ironic. It's like, oh, you were looking for the exit when it came to Wayne, and now you've actually come to find Wayne. You're stuck in this eternal maze where kids can find their way out, but for adults, it's not possible, So, and there's also, kind of in the real world, there's the whole conversation between Lou and Tabitha I thought was kind of interesting, because both of them being there for like the crazy situations there, and it's like he's there for Wayne and Vic. She's there for Tabitha. I mean, Tabitha's there for Maggie. And I thought it was interesting because she's like, it's pretty pathetic. She's like, you saw the whole thing with like the whole Scrabble bag and her burning herself, right? It's like, Lou's like, yeah. And it's like, she's like, I told myself I was done, yet here I am, like, right back at it because I still care about Maggie. She's like, it's pretty pathetic. And Lou said an interesting thing where it's like, the fact of the matter is Vic burned down our house and I'm still here. He's like, I'd probably go to hell with her just to be able to spend like another moment with her. He's like, the fact of the matter is, he's like, I want to believe that it's because I love Vic and, Wayne means the world to me. He means everything to me. That's the reason why I'm here. But then he says like, but what if it's a byproduct of me being afraid of being alone? And once again, that's something, like Charlie kind of threw at him at the end of last season, being like, oh, you think she'll love you? You think you'll be loved in return? I think, that comes from like, Lou's own insecurities and stuff like that, his own fears, which, I think I can like relate to that kind of like unsubstantiated, could not get that word out, I lucked out, I said it once, I'm not going to say it again. There's nothing backing up that feeling, but it's just something you feel inside that no one can really make you unfeel it, is what I'm trying to say. I just think that's kind of an interesting element, but it's like, he's like, I've been waiting 8 years for Vic, so yeah, I'll keep waiting forever if it needs to be that case. So all this is going down, and I think it is interesting and maybe borderline ironic that because he made such a Charlie made such a point that you are my daughter, and even thought it was interesting. Millie was like, "Oh, you would never raise a hand to a child, father." She's like, "I'm leaving here regardless. Merry Christmas, father," and bounces. I thought it was interesting because it's like when he's kind of weak, old, and frail, it's like, oh, you're asking for your daughter. Because I'm surrounded by all these kids, he's like, don't you recognize me? I'm Father Christmas. And it's like, none of them are helping you. The one person who would help you is the one person you've kind of spent decades ignoring because like, oh, you brought all these other kids. Because like she said, I'm not enough. I'm only enough when you need me because once again, all those other kids are running. None of them are helping you. But that's like, circling back to, I was going to bring up a point earlier. It's like, is it going to all work out? Like, are all those kids going to be able to bounce? I mean, to be fair, those kids have been missing for decades. Like, some of them don't have homes. Like, you'd probably have to do a situation of, like, they'd have to be in, like, foster care and stuff. I mean, who knows what the long-lasting effects of this whole situation, could be in a grand scheme of things. But it's just, Maggie stopped her from bashing his head in because it's like, it's not going to do anything. As long as we're here, no matter how much of a weakened state he's in, it's not going to kill him. It's not going to undo everything. And, it's just kind of like, you took my child, you did everything. Because, like, even Cassie was like, oh, the white static is going to wipe this all away. Vic McQueen is here, so, Millie, get out of here before it's too late type of situation, and everything that he's built over these decades has all kind of come crumbling down. He's there, weak and frail, and once again, no one's there to help him because Millie bounces. And just as she's about to leave, I was like, oh, but the fact is, you go across that line, and she starts fading. I was like, no. She runs over, takes her ornament off the tree, and she regenerates. It's like, oh. So, like, because those ornaments are your tie to Christmasland. So it's like, because you're breaking like the number one rule of Christmasland by leaving, because he has to be the one that kind of let you go. And if I guess it's like punishment by being like outside of Christmasland, almost like you don't exist anymore, so you fade away. So they would have just died. She would have died, but because she grabbed her ornament. So that means the only way to save every kid in there, including Wayne now, but Vic doesn't know that now. Like, if she leaves with him, he could end up dying, and she wouldn't know that. But it's like, Millie's around, but she ends up running afterwards. So you're like, oh, you hope that she's around long enough to help Vic be like, no, you need to get Wayne's ornament. It's the only way to save him. It's like, if they chop down those trees, if they just, because it doesn't seem like I'm curious what would happen if you destroy the ornaments. Like, at the very least, by taking them, you're able to restore yourself. But like I said, in the grand scheme of things, like, what's going to happen to all the kids he's collected over the decades in that place, as they're kind of running wild, like, what's that going to look like? And obviously Vic gets to Wayne, and she kind of like, it's like, oh, I almost been like, oh, I've been trying to play you nice, Mom. It's like, bump that. Bruce, Wayne, McQueen, we're leaving now. Like, she kind of goes into stern mom mode, because it's like, that's the only way. He's like, oh, I'm going to hate you forever. You're a monster. She's like, you can go ahead, hate me forever. The fact of the matter is, we are leaving. And then, like, all the lights start cutting down. And I think, like, Wayne kind of snaps out of it a little bit. He's like, Christmas is over, isn't it? And she's like, yeah, it's over. So, I'm curious to see where that all goes. I was also curious, like, I was wondering if we're going to see Craig one more time. I think we might. Because he's tied to the Wraith, but maybe in that time frame, like, maybe, like, Vic will come across and be like, Craig. And it's like, maybe, I'd love them to have a reunion themselves. It's like, it's in some shape or form, obviously, now, Bruce has had Wayne has had an opportunity to meet his dad, and it'd be nice if Vic could see, Craig one last time as well with everything. But it's like, I'm curious to see where things kind of go from here, because I think this is going to be the end of Charlie Manx. I am curious, though, like, where potentially things could go beyond this, because once again, there's still a shit ton of other strong creatives like out there, but maybe that won't be where they go, just because it's like, well, this is this story, this is all about Charlie, so it's like, is this the end of Charlie? Is he still going to manage to escape? It's like, Christmasland is crumbling, so I don't see that happening, especially if he's in Christmasland when it finally fades away. Cassie being there probably will be there in the last moments. I don't know. We'll ultimately have to see where everything ends up taking us. I do believe, I could be mistaken, next week's episode is the season finale. I didn't watch the preview, so I'm not sure, but I'm fairly certain, because last season was only 10 episodes, especially where we're at right now. It seems like we're heading towards a climax, so I'm curious to see how this ultimately all ends up playing out. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good